maybe we are seeing the end of this constant worry that a clean environment and nature-based life is going to cost money. We're now seeing that it really is a genuine smart investment, of course. And then to wrap up on the listeners' comments, it's now Claire. Claire Devaney, please.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so much to respond to there. Thanks so much for all of your contributions. I think the things that are coming forward to me, or the messages that are coming forward to me, is something around agency and power and voice. And listening to Emily's awesome input there, I started to think about actual representation in governance and in place governance and in all of our spaces, in planning and engineering. I know that colleagues have spoken about STEM skills, but also in the creative and cultural industries. What I would like to see is more polyvocalism on these panels, and that stretches to what Jonathan had said about the disproportionate impacts of COVID on the basis of ethnic heritage, but also communities who have already been impacted by underinvestment. And so there is something around women's representation in that, and the representation of women in power. I saw something in the chat, somebody mentioned the three kings, referring to the three northern mayors, but we do have Tracy Braben now as well, who's leading the charge there. Where I'm talking from, we now have our first directly elected Black female mayor in Liverpool, Joanne Anderson, who is a phenomenal woman. And I would point as well to, I've seen Deborah Aiden in the chat, who's running the People's Pool initiatives around Lidos and swimming spaces in the north. Polly Mosley runs the Scouse Flower House, which is an awesome initiative around greening and wildflowers with communities, many of whom have been impacted previously by underinvestment, those local communities around Liverpool. And the People's Powerhouse itself, right, which was started by Tracy Fishwick. You know, we've got Edna here, who's an awesome chair, Jo Miller, who was another phenomenal woman who used to run Doncaster Council. So there are women, and it is awesome to see that our voices are being heard and that we are in positions now of agency and that we might be moving toward change. I do think there's still a lot of work to do around diversity of voices in terms of ethnic background. I would recommend a book called I Belong Here by Anita Sethi, which is on all of the kind of top 10 lists at the moment, but it's her experience of being racially attacked on a train, and she goes on this pilgrimage across the Pennines, you know, with a very kind of determined purpose through the Hope Valley. So it's all about a journey to hope, which comes through engaging with the North's natural spaces and that feeling of belonging. So I think in terms of how we get communities to participate and how we see those golden threads from individuals like Cara right through to the global crisis that we're facing, that's what we need to bring out. And so platforms that everyone as individuals can feed into are platforms like this, right? Or platforms like the People's Powerhouse. Beth spoke about citizens' juries, but again, you know, a polyvocalism on those citizens' juries to feed through into strategies so that everyone understands that this is a shared and collaborative mission. And I can't remember which of the colleagues it was, but they were talking about the kind of competitive funding profile that we're facing at the moment. But I think if we can collaborate across the North and show a unified voice and show the strength of our assets, and the fact that even though we're constantly told about the talent gap and the skills gap and the productivity gap, in fact, we've got young people like Emily who are awesome and who are going to take this forward and start kicking ass, you know. Anyway, thanks everyone so much. It's been great to listen.
Absolutely brilliant. So that's our comments from our listeners. And looking at the schedule here, I reckon we've got about 10 minutes of more questions and things, Johnny, before we start wrapping up. So should we take some more questions then? Because there's so many.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's so many great comments in the chat, and the chat is going to be saved, and we're going to be using this to kind of drive our future work and everything. And I'll get around to as many people as I can now. So I've got Louise Nolte, who made a great comment in the chat earlier. And then I'll give her a few moments. I've also got Nick Dixon, who made a great comment as well, quite early on. Would you like to come forward?
Yeah, I'm happy to step in, Johnny. Thanks for the opportunity. I think I came on this feeling really kind of a sense of hopelessness and frustration and powerlessness, and the contributions people have made have really lifted my spirits. So thank you all so much. So much has been said by Emily, Beth and others, and David's comment about agency really struck home. I think at the root of this, one point I want to make is about powerlessness, I think, which and the polarization that's around us, which hasn't been commented on. So just one example is, in where I live now, we're trying to have low traffic neighborhoods. Yeah, there's this polarization of the car driving community versus the people who want to cycle and walk, and the clean air group. And it just feels like we're in two separate camps. And it feels to me we just have to find a way of building a community voice which brings people together and connects people together and builds relationships and trust. Otherwise, we're going to be separate and always at each other's throats. So I think in terms of building a movement for community power, I love the citizens' juries idea and so on. But a national community power conversation is being led by New Local, who are talking about citizen power rather than state or market power. That's fantastic. In what you're doing at People's Powerhouse is a great example of a regional debate around power shifting. But in Greater Manchester, we're trying to create something called a movement for community power. It's about bringing all these different ideas and words and actions together into something which has traction, which can make a difference. But then let's think about local. In Bury, there's a movement for Bury community power started. Give voice to citizens to say, enough is enough. We want something to change from our leaders, from people who hold power. And then on the hyper-local, what can you do in your own very, very sort of nearby neighbours? We're reimagining our community, reimagining our Chorlton, where I live, as a greener, kinder, more connected, healthier place. So on all these different levels, we need to work together. And it's all about power at the end of the day, and fighting this bloody government we've got, which just says the right words, but her actions continue to support the extracting economy. So I've been energised by today. Thank you so much. We've got to do more of this coming together and speaking with one voice and rising up and saying enough is enough.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Nick. And Louise, I saw that you were on, so would you like to come in? I can't seem to hear you, Louise. Sorry, Louise, I can't seem to hear you. Would you be able to maybe try some headphones or something? Sorry about that. We'll try and we'll go to someone else and then come back to you if that's all right. Okay, sorry about that, Louise, but I have got plenty more in the chat. I've got someone called Joe. I don't know your second name, but I really like your comment earlier. So if your Zoom name is just Joe, J-O, then...
Yeah, that's me. Hello.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. Sorry, it's Joe Payne, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good to hear everyone being really supportive about and agreeing with everything that we have to do. We set up a community market garden in 2017, and now do set up community growing projects across Greater Manchester. I was 26 when we started it, so I'm 31 now, but I think Emily's point about women and representation is one of those where I think because I was a female and in a leadership position, we now have, and young, we now have like most of our volunteers and staff are under 30 and like at least 50% female. So I think representation in leadership is like massive, but I think we kind of like, we have a lot of barriers. We're really stressed out by not being able to do what we want to do to generate actual income to support the work, the community work that we do. And we get sort of, we get really frustrated that we can't speak to the right people. We don't know who the sort of person is to contact within the council, and like who to, basically who's the right person to support us. There's so many things going on. There's so many different groups, like employees of the council and councillors and stuff like that, and it's almost completely overwhelming, and you get kind of lost within the sort of the bubble of the council. get that support. And so, yeah, I think obviously it's really nice to hear that people want to listen to community groups and the grassroots organisations, but from the grassroots perspective, how do you get to those people? I think is quite hard. And also, like, from the sort of the children perspective, we were just saying that I think a lot of we love having like forest school here and like children's groups here and summer holiday sessions here, and they just love it and have fun. And I think really that the children need to sort of have fun and grow and get you know, like get used to, you know, like being in the garden and growing their own food and being out. So then when they do grow up, they've got that like connection and happy memories with it. And then the sort of the focus should really be on the careers for the sort of students and the 18-year-old plus that actually are going to be doing some work really soon in this sector, and like support for them. I know that there's a Kickstarter program, but we've got several volunteers that are 25 and over that would love a career in this, and they don't fall within that bracket. So that's just another issue that we deal with the sort of 25 to 30-year-olds that are graduating or maybe just getting into this kind of area and then have nowhere to go. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing, Jo. Thank you. And well, should we try, Louise? We can try again. If it doesn't work, I can maybe read out, put your thumbs up if you want me to read out your comment to everybody, so that at least it's heard secondhand. Let's try.
Yeah, I don't think you can hear me, can you? No, it's not working.
We can hear you. We can hear you. We can. Go for it.
Oh, can you? Can you?
Yeah,
it says that it's blocked, but anyway, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I put a few sort of comments in really about, you know, how we need to be a bit more ambitious with our recycling. I'm part of a volunteer group who run a community garden and butterfly house in Halton, and the council that we work in partnership with don't even recycle their own green space waste. So I think it's things like that you know, we feel that we really want to keep hold of our bin collection. That's really important, and that's always thrust upon us when people say, well, what would you rather have? You know, would you rather have your bins collected or would you rather have a green space? And it should be that we can have both, and they should both be working together. And the thing that I'm taking from today is how we need to bring all these ideas together. I think some people still see green jobs, green economy, green environment as very different things, and things that are not connected, and things that they might just take a little bit from. So I think we need to have a great campaign about how we bring this together, and we see this as us being connected with that green space, how we link to the green space and how it impacts on every part of our life, and especially with the idea of everybody feeling comfortable within a green space as well. But everybody should want to have a green agenda wherever they are, whatever part of their life it is, because it ultimately is the only way forward, isn't it? But connecting us to those green spaces and the green kind of all the things we've talked about, the green agenda is vital, really. So thank you to everybody for today.
Thank you so much. That was really inspiring, Louise. Thank you very much. And Paul, should we? Do you want to hear from any more, or do you think it's time to wrap up?
It's a tricky thing, because here on the top of Kinder Scout, we're having such a great time that it seems ridiculous to just say, look, we're going to have to stop. But it's a funny thing, but time is important, and we don't want to lose anybody's momentum because they have to go and all that. So I think we'll have to, strangely enough, stop the questions. But that's the real energy, isn't it? I mean, there's a listening event. We're all listening. We've got the questions. I'm fizzing with energy and ideas and excitement. So I think I'll do a brief wrap up and then hand over, of course, you know, to Tracy and that sort of thing, and wrap up properly, because then we know we're making good use of everybody's time. For me, it was brilliant. I mean, I get frustrated when I speak to some people who say that the motivation for doing the right nature-based thinking is right now, because it's the ultimate motivator. It's our health. It's not remote, and as many people say, you know, the climate change seems a bit remote. You know, overfishing at sea seems a bit remote. Deforestation can seem remote because life appears to continue as normal, even though everybody here, especially, working very hard to bring those issues to home and into our daily lives. But now we're talking about our own health, and you know the motivation just couldn't be higher. And the fact that our health is reliant on everybody else's health around the world, and their health is reliant on the health of nature. So we're all completely linked. We've got to make these smart, joined up decisions. And an event like this just gives me so much hope when I realize, well, yeah, we've got it. You know, here in the North, we've absolutely got it. But how do we capture this moment properly so that decision makers really feel it? I always love the thought of young ones. Thank you for the younger ones for joining us. And it's that thing I said at the beginning, you know, the people, the influences in authority, those chief execs and heads of schools and businesses and politicians, they all know that very, very shortly you're going to be voting. So you keep up the pressure because that's going to influence them. And for the rest of us, how do we have a sort of short-term action? How do we capture this so we make good steps forward for the benefit of the North and indeed the planet? And these comments about the North, we can be, global leaders. We don't have to just look regionally. Our work can really be global leading. So thanks very much for all of that. I've had an absolutely brilliant time joining you up here on the top of Kinder Scout. More time now for tea and sandwiches while we hand over to Tracy. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, and thanks everyone. My job is to just summarise some of the things very quickly, and that's almost impossible because I've been keeping a close eye on the chat and all the comments, and I've pulled out a few things, but it's really by way of summary and the sort of key things I think that we've heard, because this is about listening to you. That comment towards the end, enough is enough, actually kind of just sum up a lot of the frustration and the idea of us coming together more often. This has been a great platform to do that, and this is why we're here. This is what we want to do. So every month we will be hosting listening events like this. So we're happy to hear your other suggestions for other topics as well. So just get in touch if you think that you know a good listener, and if you think that you know someone who's a good contributor to a topic, please keep those coming through to us, and we will be the facilitators and organisers and keep doing this. There's also something about this conversation and what we do with this next and where we take this forward. There was, I think, quite a strong kind of theme or throughout this about how do we get power to listen. And we heard examples where people are trying really hard in their community. Joe from Manchester Urban Diggers saying they've got an amazing thing going on there in Platfield Market Garden. The council isn't listening or is putting up roadblocks in the way. But yet the rhetoric is that they want community groups to take over what were previously public assets. And these things are just not matching together. So it's about us coming together to help each other figure out what we can actually do. And maybe there are more things that we could do that we don't know that we can already do. There was another theme, I think, around a theme around, what can we do? We don't need more permission. It's actually about sharing and learning. There is no white charger. There's no one coming up, no knight in shining armour, or whatever a female version, a female knight in shining armour coming up the M6 to save anybody. There isn't. That's just what I think. What can we already do? What powers have we got? And are the resources aligned with the powers that we've got? Probably not in both ways. But that doesn't mean to say there aren't things that we can already get on with and do. And a lot of that is to do with listening and sharing and talking and learning. And can this be a platform for more of that to continue? That's what we're here for. We provide the platform, you provide the content. So please just keep telling us what you want us to do. I loved the contributions from the young people. And if anybody ever thinks that involving young people is just some kind of tokenistic gesture, then today has proved that that's not true. Because actually some of the most powerful stuff that we've heard came from our young contributors, and the reason that People's Powerhouse started in the first place was saying it really matters who's in the room when decisions are being made. And if it's only men in the room, then don't be surprised when you get a skewed set of decisions and policies coming out. And there's Emily telling us about her research around women and girls and feeling unsafe out in green spaces. And that is a lot to do with who's in the room when decisions are being made. So much that resonates with us as People's Powerhouse that you've said today, so much that we want to take forward, but we can only do it with you and with you staying involved. So in summary, sign up to get more bulletins, follow us on Twitter, we've got a Facebook page, get in touch with Finn, who's now our social media guru, who we've just hired recently through the Kickstart scheme as well. So if you're not doing Kickstart, you need to, because you get fantastic talent like Finn and Emily, and those amazing young people from the school. What a great way to start our event. So yeah, thank you for today. I know people are now probably thinking about going to get their butties, their dinner, both northern terms, but lovely to see people from literally spanning Sunderland, Newcastle, all areas of the northeast, right across through Derbyshire and Yorkshire, through to Liverpool and the Wirral and Cheshire. It's been brilliant. That's what we're all about, east to west. So yeah, thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Great.
Thank you,
everybody.
Paul.
Thank
you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks, speakers, as well.
Thanks, everybody. Brilliant.
See everyone again soon.